Greetings and namaste. This is Shiva, your friendly neighborhood wellness guide, philosopher, friend, take it as you will. But my mission is to spread wellness into the world. So hang on to your wellness seats because we're going on a journey here, as we always do. Anyway, hopefully you haven't missed me too much. It has been a bit of a hiatus, I must admit. But as I might have alluded to in one of my past videos, hopefully I'm working on my secret book project. And whoa, writing a book is not easy. And I'm saying that having not written one so far. So it does take a lot of time, effort, and tribulation. I guess the more people you have working on a book, the easier it might get. Then it becomes more a matter of coordination and putting the pieces together. But yeah, when you're sort of by yourself, it's a full-time job and then some, because writing a book can either be something that is not merely, I should say, but it could be as simple as expression of life experiences, or in my case, I'm trying to learn and validate and communicate a pretty deep and broad subject at the same time, which is both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because there's no dull moments. There's always stuff to learn. There's always aha moments. There's like, oh, did I address that aspect? But then at some point you gotta tie the ribbon and say, hey, this is as good as it gets for now. Let's put it out there and start working on the next incarnation or the next follow-up. So wish me luck as I do that. Meanwhile, today's video is about 𝓚₂ and you hang out with me long enough, you'll know that I like to do that in my own multitasking way. And this one is thanks to Susan Hales, who's a master coach, and I am attending a rapid realignment workshop that she has going on right now. This is day 2, yet to begin. I just finished day 1, but Susan did give us homework for day 1, so this is my attempt at both putting a video out there that I haven't in a while, plus completing my homework, for better or worse. So if that's not what you plan on watching, maybe hang in there a couple more minutes and we'll see you again, okay? But here's what Susan asked us to do. So she has put out a great video that basically is focused on how we need to embrace our lives differently in terms of not being swayed by the conditioning, the programming, the expectations of the world around us, but living from the inside out. And if anyone's seen my LinkedIn profile, coincidence alert, serendipity alert, whatever alert, that's sort of my tagline there as well. So, hence the reason I'm in Susan's class, right? Because we're probably birds of feather in that sense. But as she speaks about living from the inside out, she raises some questions that specifically address what has caused that emotional, closing down, or that reaction to different situations and people and themes in our life, and how does that manifest. So let's go down this list of questions. I'll try to ad lib on them and hopefully make sense, at least to myself, and I'm hoping in some way to you guys. But if nothing else, just take these questions. I would urge you to attend Susan's class right now. I think you can still sign up late, and it's easy to catch up on the first day because it's basically an hour-ish of video from her, and it's really easy to sink into because of her really authentic style and her delivery, which is very easy on the ears. And if you just kind of sit down for that hour or so in a room, and before you know it, that hour will be up, and you'll sort of go through a little roller coaster, as with any story of meaning. But at the end of it, you will come out feeling like there's more light than darkness, which is a miracle in itself. So why not go get that? But In the interest of completing my homework, like I said in this video, let's run through the list of questions, and then I'll sort of either sequence them or just sort of interweave through them as I try to make sense of those as they relate to me in my life so far. So question number 1 is, and this is again, like I said, after you watch the video, so there's a bit of context here that you would gain from if you attend the class. Plug. Shameless. Hey, I'm shameless when it comes to the good stuff in life, and Susan's definitely putting out the good stuff. So one of the questions is, how were you squashed or shaped as a child? So yeah, let's hold on to that thought. But the first things that spark for me are the ideas of repression or suppression and expression. What was I sort of allowed visibly or invisibly, audibly or inaudibly, tangibly or intangibly to express, and what was I maybe messaged, or what did I internalize more appropriately as something that needs to be suppressed? And then how was I taught as a child to handle my emotions, especially the bad or negative ones? So just rephrase that to the question for you, how were you taught as a child to handle your emotions, especially the bad or negative ones? So again, kind of comes to some of that labeling and how do I process these emotions? Are these legit or not? Are they going to be approved or not? Is there going to be a reward or punishment at the end of this? Then question 3 is, how do you handle your emotions now? So again, first thoughts on that is, the reason I'm in the class is because I think there's ways to go. And my sort of crutch for that is the boys don't cry deal. Men don't cry, men are strong, and that type of thing. But that's not even Neanderthal. I think that's just not it. But we'll get into that more. And then, what emotions or energetic imprints are living in your body that need to go? Oh yeah, that's huge. So that's why I'm here. One of the things that struck me when I read through this question was one of my mantras as part of my yoga practice that I tell people, and this is sort of mantra level 2. Mantra level 1 is more like relax, pause, breathe, smile. All right, if you do that at the right pace, you'll eventually find one leads to another, or some combination thereof. The smile is important. It can be as light as you want, but just a calmness, an absence of worry, anxiety, of frown lines and things of that nature. The other level 2 that I said that was brought up in my mind was laugh. So that's like a more intense version of smile. Cry, which is something that I personally need to work on, which is why I joined Susan's class. I was telling one of my coachy buddies, Miha, my buddy from Slovenia, that I just feel that I have all of this stuff inside me that needs to come out in the form of tears, that I need to cry more, and that I've almost forgotten how to cry. And I wrote this in Susan's private Facebook group as well, and I think a couple of people had the same reaction of, yes, I feel that. But laughing uncontrollably, right? So that belly laughter, that just where you can't stop laughing, that's the laughter I'm talking about. Not just a quip or something that made you haha and then you're back to humdrum kind of existence, but it's just like that pent up joy that needs to express itself through just laughter. Laughing yoga is a good way to start literally exercising those muscles. And then same, crying inconsolably, I just unfortunately recently lost my father-in-law, and I'm still processing through that. It's been 3 weeks now. Who's counting, right? But it's like, I lost my father about 10 years back. I lost my uncle, about 2 years after that. So about 8 years back, if you're doing the math backward and forward. But, I've lost some friends in the interim, younger folks, not that my dad or uncle were over the hill by any means, 50s. So I've kind of had these weird losses of people sort of before their time, which doesn't really seem like it makes sense. And so I've still not processed through that, and still there's, life is happening and there's more losses happening, and I'm just finding I need more tools to deal with all of that. And truth be told, my Ayurvedic doctor, and yes, I do have an Ayurvedic doctor because, even wellness enthusiasts and guides and philosophers need all the help they can. We need our own army of support. And, my Ayurvedic doc is definitely one of those people. And she said, I just need to focus on my breath and meditation routines, and that's where the answers will emerge. So basically going inward, right? But back to kind of my yoga mantra level 2, which is, and I should say mantra, not mantra, if that's how you're used to pronouncing it, because mantra is how it's pronounced. But going back to my yoga mantra, it's laugh, it's cry, it's sweat. Like for me especially, and I think for anyone, it's like sweat is that detox. It may be physical, it may be mental, it may be emotional, but you got to kind of sweat it out. You got to let it go, and then finally fly. So laugh, cry, sweat, fly. See how that grabs you. But at the end of the laughing, the crying, the sweating, you've basically gone through this gamut of emotion, and now you're in a space where you can fly, right? So I kind of got in deep with that question there. Obviously, it struck a nerve. But let's move on with Susan's questions here. And the fifth one, she has, what do you want your life to look and feel like? Declare it to the universe. Now, this is powerful. This is powerful stuff. It's not the first time you might have heard it. But I just think it's powerful because simply we don't do it enough. I don't do it enough. I know for sure. If I don't do it enough, I know I'm not that unique. I'm sure there's others who are in the same habit. So that's that, and that's sort of her homework point is, how would your life look and feel like if all of your blocks were removed? And declare to the universe, what do you want? All right, so that's what we got so far. So let's maybe rewind and go back to some of those questions. The first one was squashing or shaping as a child. What was repressed, what was expressed. I think I had it luckier than most. At least I think I did. The only downside of being an only child, not just an only son, only boy, or I was an only child and I was an only grandchild. So it was like only to the max, right? And I was surrounded by all of these loving people. I was the only nephew to my uncles. I was the only grandchild to the maternal side of my family. I was the only child to my biological parents. Well, a lot of the attention was on me, and I think one of the ways I processed that attention is I always wanted to be in the good books of people. I wanted to retain that attention. I wanted to retain that focus. I wanted to retain that being the apple of everyone's eye, being the centerpiece of everything. So, bless you. I think the way I did that is I decided to conform to people's expectations of what I thought or internalized as they wanted to see, hear. So whether it was good grades in school, whether it was good behavior, whether it was not throwing tantrums, whether it was, eating food properly, not wasting food. There was all of these, kind of sticking to the kind of straight and narrow, if you will, to make that happen. But now what gets suppressed? What gets suppressed in my case is dealing with the so-called not so socially acceptable emotions: anger, irritation, frustration, depression, loneliness, neediness, just the valleys we find ourselves in, for better or worse, that I think it is important to know how to process. And Susan makes a great point in her video. Don't want to give the whole game away. Join the course, right? But she basically says that what is driving the show is our subconscious, is our energy body. This is our physical body. We have our our left brain, our logical mind, and we don't necessarily realize the importance of our subconscious. So if we tap into our dreams, for example, if we try to unravel the layers of what's behind this and what's behind this and what's behind this, kind of that delayering of that onion, you start to get into some really core stuff. For example, in my case, like I said, I did not want to disappoint. I did not want to lose that attention. I did not want to be abandoned by these people. So I had to be a certain way, and that's when the mask comes on, right? That's when the not so maybe socially acceptable parts, or what I think are acceptable parts, are not allowed to manifest. And to be true, I did manifest those. It's not as if I spent my childhood without a single rebellious moment, or without getting scolded, or getting admonished by a teacher or something. But by and large, if I look at the theme, I think that's what I've been trying to do, is avoiding disappointing others so I can continue to be in their favor. So that being said, think about that for a bit while I go and check out the youngins in the neighborhood. All right. So let's maybe take that journey into, how have we been taught, to express our emotions. And to be frank, when one's, I wasn't really taught, I don't think, at least not directly, in the way that kind of I like to be. It's like, let's get on a board right now, or let's do something experiential, or let's like walk through a certain situation. I think that's where the art of reflection and introspection is important. However, if you're not taught that, it sort of becomes this reinventing the wheel thing, which I think is pretty lame, after all these years of all this wisdom that's accumulated. It's like, we still need to be taught introspection and reflection, of course. And I think some schools do it better than others. I mean, in my son's school, for example, they sort of very early on in like pre-kindergarten, they start them out saying, okay, So when someone says they're sorry, okay, what are you sorry for? That's the reflection piece. You have to reflect back on what was it that I am asking forgiveness for, that I am repenting for, that I am not proud to have done. And then there's the next time. So then there's the lesson learned, right? It's like reflected. I know what it is. And next time, here's what's going to happen differently. So I love that. I'm sorry for, and next time, which gives it that continuity and gives you some hope for the future, and sort of puts a thought out there in the universe. So I think those are the little lessons that need to stick in the mind and be practiced often enough that they just become this constant learning and learning and learning and learning and refining and refining and refining and refining till you get down to the really subtle layers of existence and existential thoughts, if you will. But you got to start at the gross, is my feeling, just because that's the world we live in. That's this physical vessel we're born in. So yeah, to answer the second question, I wasn't really taught, I don't think. My mom, she might be watching this video and she can correct me. And I think, to be fair, the ways I was taught was just being exposed to different ways of creative expression. So it was maybe writing, it was maybe music, it was singing, it was, playing, running outside, it was cycling, it was being in nature, it was, even cooking. So, making the bed. I mean, all of those are ways to express your emotions in a sense. For example, if your room is untidy, what does that tell you about a state of mind? Sometimes, how they say it's like an organized chaos. So you have to know that. Maybe it's just a sense of comfort one has. One doesn't have to see, books like in alphabetical order or pencils neatly arranged, but as long as the person knows where to go for certain thing and they're the only ones affected by and using it, then who cares? But sometimes when you live in an atmosphere where there's more than one person inhabiting that space, then you kind of also have to be considerate of how that other person is going to use that shared space, and then shared space takes on a different meaning. So again, when I think about organized chaos, I think of it as very individual, very personal, not shared, unless the other person is sort of an organized chaos partner in crime or kindred spirit. But otherwise, that's how I kind of think about it. But maybe that's going into the weeds of a different topic. How do I handle my emotions now? Well, first, I think it's important to name emotions, because if your journey is anything like mine, you don't know how to name this emotion, especially in the moment, because that's when the reptilian brain or the fight, flight, or freeze response is kicking in, and executive function has gone for a hike, right? So I think there's precursors to emotions, right? Whether it's joy or anger or lethargy, and some of these are even states, not emotions, but some of them can be very mental. It's like, I feel lethargic, or I am lethargic. There's a difference. Feeling could be very emotional, could be very mental, fuzzy mind. It could be a heavy heart. I am lethargic is, I'm not doing anything and not taking action. I'm not trying to snap out of it. I'm just in it. I'm just, in that state. So I think the first thing for me right now is just trying to understand both the lead up to the emotion, the actual being in it, and then the coming out of it. How does that exit happen? And it's interesting to just note that. I mean, my Ayurvedic doctor, for example, has told me to keep an emotional journal. I haven't done that so far. I'm kind of taking it easy. She told me a bunch of things, and so I'm sort of bringing in a couple of things at a time. I'm not going full bore, because I've just found that kind of tends to be too much too soon for in terms of what really becomes a meaningful change. But emotional journaling, this is maybe the first step in that direction, is just acknowledging how I feel. And I think she told me to do it at bedtime. I will definitely do it at bedtime, but I might just, keep like this journal open where I kind of go, scribble a word in it and maybe a time or something, or both, and just see that cascade through the day. Because I tried that, I set up a template for that before, but I never really stuck to it, or really, even if I stuck to it to some extent, I never really looked at the pattern. So I think I need something simpler, just like this, where I can kind of put in some emoticons or emojis and just sort of track at a macro level, and then, like I said, start refining it to more deeper levels as the macro stuff is accounted for. So today I handle my emotions, not as good as I want to. Many times I find I have tripped into the state without knowing what got me there. I'm a little better at coming out of it, but the tripping into it is the part I think I need to work on a little more and spend more time on, understand. What emotions, energetic imprints are living in my body that need to go? Yeah, so like I said, some of these losses I but I spoke about earlier in the talk, as well as just kind of living the more feeling side of me in a more expressive way, especially the feeling side of me that I think has been repressed, like things that are not good, So I'm pretty good at expressing anger and irritation, and that kind of comes from my Pitta-centric personality. If you're into Ayurveda, Pitta is like related to the elements of fire and water. Strange combination, but it's like the fire part in me is not afraid to like show itself. But it's also the water part that I think I need to bring up more. And like I said, the tears need to flow, the emotions need to be expressed without inhibition, without judgment. And that's where Susan's talk is so great, because she says that there are no negative emotions. And I do believe that. I believe that about basically anything and everything in the world. That's sort of a non-dual perspective deal for me. It's like non-dualism 101. Like nothing is good or bad inherently. It just depends how, when, and in what quantity and with what quality and what aspect they're leveraged, seen, used, and that kind of comes back to me, resonates for me, the concept of Dharm, which for me right now, if you ask me, is right action at the right time. And right action for who? It's the right action that comes from the core of my being, and the right time is, this is the right time to do it, the right context to do it in. And there's lots of layers to that. I mean, that's very simplistic, but I think in terms of imprint, I'm still learning those lessons. In fact, the book subject I'm dealing with is basically numerology, and one of the aspects of numerology that I've yet to expound on in one of the chapters is karmic lessons that the numbers indicate that must be learned in this lifetime. There's many different ways to skin that cat, but one is simply to look at what aspects are missing in life, and to be a complete person, to have a holistic experience, one needs to flesh out those aspects. So like for me, I mentioned crying. It's hard for me to cry, in terms of, I think there's more crying to be done just to deal with all of these imprints over time. And in one of my initial videos back in the day, where I think I mentioned, why am I doing this? I've just seen a lot of great talent not go wasted, but just be meet an end prematurely, at least in my opinion. It was like, this could have gone further, this could have been better, this could have been bigger, this could have been stronger. And when I think of that, I just think of, you know, I just think of the imprints that's left on me in terms of wellness is so important. And I think that's where the focus needs to be, because when one is well, what comes out, you know, wellness will emerge. You know, if there's negativity within, that's going to spill out eventually. If there's wellness within that's running the show, then that's what's going to manifest, right? So I think I just need to surface those emotions that have been repressed or not dealt with in many different ways, you know, physically, energetically, emotionally, intellectually. You know, I could write about them. I could do an asana practice. I could do a detox process. I could watch a tear-jerker that brings back something. I could speak to a close friend. There's so many ways to bring that out. So it's like focusing on how to do that. And then here's the pièce de résistance, you know, the question that I think Susan wants us to complete. We're like at a half hour and I'm getting there. But how would your life look and feel like if all of your blocks were removed? So going back to my yoga mantra again, right? So when I think of that mantra, it's like laugh, cry, sweat. At this point, I feel I'm going to be unburdened. I'm going to be light. I'm going to be light yet stable with a very firm base. Grounded, where I can fly, you know? So that's this strange juxtaposition of opposition that I just love about non-duality in general, that it's so easy to combine extremes. It's like, wow, I'm grounded yet I'm flying. Yeah, because I'm light. I'm not grounded and heavy. I'm grounded and stable enough that I can bend the physical laws and I can fly. Now, fly doesn't mean physical flying. Well, that it can be. That's one of the yoga siddhis, you know, that hopefully, you know, maybe I'll get to experience as part of this process. There's plenty of hatha yogis that demonstrated that and have been studied scientifically. I don't know if the studies actually figured out how they could do it, but they saw that they could do it, which is the experience part of it. Sometimes you don't need to know how and why. Sometimes you just need to enjoy and be. So when I think of all the blocks, I think of being light. And these blocks are, you know, blocks of self-judgment. These blocks are blocks of expectation. These blocks are blocks of not embracing a moment fully. These blocks are blocks of not tuning in fully, not dancing to the rhythm of the moment. Again, it's very moment focused. It's the present. It's being free of the past, free of the future, and just being now, being complete. So I think that is how I want my life to look and feel like, is a series of nows, not a series of thens and to be's, right? I mean, those are good. I can even hold them in the now, because my now is the connector between the was and the will be, right? But as long as I am firmly planted here, I think that is the greatest thing ever. Like right now, I'm completely in this video. I'm immersed in this video with you, with these experiences, with these questions, looking forward to Susan's, you know, day 2, things of that nature. But I'm still now. And, you know, breath is the easiest thing to bring me back to now. When I find myself sipping breath or just maybe tightening up ever so slightly, it could be even a tightening up of joy. So here's where you don't, you know, differentiate between the tightening up of nervousness or anxiety and the tightening up of something good yet to emerge. It's like just witness the tightening, the constriction, and then come back into that moment of flow. And the breath. Oh man, that's like like I said, my weapon of power. Does wonders. Closing my eyes, kind of doing a little bit of that pratyahara, that withdrawal within and reconnecting to that core, that base, is just what is needed. So I think life is awesome. Every moment is awesome. As long as I can recenter into that awesomeness, that moment, whether be it of calm, whether it be of extreme joy, whether it be of even being bored or depressed, it's like, just get into that moment, and once one breathes into that moment, the depression that may have caused that moment, or the excitation that caused that moment, just settles into this place of equanimity, of this bliss, of just being. I think that's where I'm at right now. So, universe, that's what I want. Let my life be fully present, fully dharmic, and let it be an experience of minimal regret, of maximum consciousness. That note, thank you all for staying the course if you did. If not, maybe we'll meet again in a different wellness video right here. Adios.